who are here today to answer some of your questions. So we're just going to get you all to introduce yourselves. Eve, do you want to start?
Hi, I'm Eve. I'm in my final year at Magdalen and I do history and politics.
Thank you. T?
Hi, I'm T. I'm a second year biochemist.
Lovely. Ipek?
Hi, I'm Ipek and I'm doing my second year engineering science at Magdalen.
Catrin?
Hi, I'm Catrin. I'm in my third and final year of human sciences.
And Mattie?
Hi, I'm Mattie and I'm going into my third year of doing medicine.
Lovely. Thanks very much, guys. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Eve for a little brief introduction as to what student life is like.
Hi, just a little answering some of the main questions we get. So what's it like living in college at Magdalen? Basically, all of our first years all get to live together in college accommodation. So they're either in something we call the Fleet Building or they're in one of Magdalen's high street houses. And all 3 or 4 years we spend on site at Magdalen, which means I basically know everyone I see when I'm walking around college, which is one of my favourite things. And in terms of like what the college is like as a space, there's loads of catering and kitchens, so you can choose whether you want to cook for yourself, or I tend to go to hall or eat in the OKB, which is like our cafe / bar area, which is open all day. And there's lots of student spaces like the common room, which has our like PlayStation, Xbox, pool table, all those things. The bar and also the lawns are massive, which we sit out on a lot at the moment, obviously because of COVID. In terms of social life in Oxford, it's a big mix. You know, I was quite worried about not having the traditional university experience by coming to Oxford, that I was sacrificing like clubbing and going out. But actually in first year, like there's as many people who go out 3-4 times a week as there are people who like never go out or just want to go to the pub or something like that. The best thing I think about social life in Oxford is that the college university dynamic, it means that there's like a whole social life going on the university level, but there's all a whole social life and events going on your college level. So you might go to university societies or sports teams, you might go to parties at other colleges, or you might have, you know, like karaoke nights in your own college bar, or bops, which are like college fancy dress parties. So there's like hundreds of events you could be going to pretty much every week. There's like societies that have speakers in if you want to go to more formal stuff. And there's also like societies like LGBTQ plus society. And we also have nice nights in college, which I've really enjoyed, like when Love Island's on, like 60 people tend to cram in the common room to watch it, or when the World Cup's on. And then there's also the like more Oxford side, which you think of, which is it's like all the funny traditions, but people kind of take them as just something peculiar and funny that you do, like formals in college, which are like big fancy meals which you can take your friends to, or punting in the summer, which is but we have free punts on the river, or May Day, which is when the choir sings from Magdalen Tower at 6 a.m. and we all tend to stay up the night before to listen. In terms of like why you choose Magdalen over another college, obviously it's all preference rather than academic. But what's special about Magdalen, I think, is partly the location and just what the college looks like. It's a really, really beautiful place. And Amy's favourite story when we're doing events is that she just Googled what was the prettiest Oxford college, and Magdalen is the top result. So it tells everything. It's also a river college, which is not that common in Oxford and really pretty. And we've got a deer park with deer, just in case. There's also a really big library on site, which means especially for history, I've never really had to leave college to find books. And geographically, we're right opposite exam schools, which is where all the humanities lectures are, all the exams are. And we're also near Cowley, which is where more of the like bars and nice places to eat are. And then the final thing is I found Magdalen very, very supportive compared to other colleges, both in terms of finance and welfare. So there's a student support fund if you're ever struggling, which is really, really generous, and the travel grants for study related travel. But there's also, we're unique in having a counsellor on site at Magdalen and like a student mentor as well. And obviously the lovely welfare team. So yeah, I think that's quite unique to Magdalen in terms of the amount of support I've had available from college. Yeah, answer some more
So
specific.
much, Eve. That's brilliant. Okay, well, touching on something you've said, probably our most common question is, why did you choose Magdalen? So if we go to everybody else on that, or alternatively, what is your favourite thing about Magdalen? Catrin, can I come to you first?
Yeah, so I chose Magdalen in the end because I grew up in rural Wales, and Oxford is actually the busiest place I've ever lived, which is different to a lot of people. And I was really worried that if I lived in one of the central colleges, which are all quite like they're all in quads and they're all quite compact, I could end up being quite claustrophobic. So I applied to Magdalen because it's just so green. Like, there's a walk around the deer park. You don't ever leave college grounds, and it takes you 15 minutes just to walk around college. And there are just so many green spaces. It's so open, so pretty. So yeah, that's why I applied for it, just because it's a lovely place to live.
Lovely, thank you. Mattie?
Quite similarly to Catrin, I live in the countryside when I'm at home as well, so not wanting to be right in the centre was also a big factor. I wanted the green space. I also came up with my uncle and sort of had a look around a bunch of colleges and slightly randomly decided that Magdalen was the prettiest and didn't really know why to apply anywhere, so just picked Magdalen kind of at random. And I'm now really happy that I ended up there.
Lovely, thank you. T?
Well, at first, I didn't really know anything about the colleges at all. But during the unique summer school, I was put into Magdalen. And then in that moment, I was just like awestruck and I loved it. And also for me, it's the complete opposite because I'm from London. And then in that moment, I realized that I did not want another busy city. I didn't want all that chaos. And because Magdalen is so huge and so green, I just loved it instantly.
Brilliant. And Ipek?
Mine was a little weird. I discovered Oxford had like colleges, and I looked at the list. It was too long. I called my friend who went to Oxford, and I was like, "Tell me a college, and I'll apply." And he was like, "Go to Magdalen. They have a tower." And I was like, "Sure, I want a tower." And then I googled some pictures, and obviously it was beautiful. So yeah.
Lovely, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so next question. Where do you guys go to study and to work? What spaces do you use? Anyone can come in on this.
I'm less of a silent library person. I find it quite hard to concentrate. There are lots of spaces like that, but I tend to either work in my room because it's lovely, or go to coffee shops in town, which are really student friendly because obviously they know loads of students are working there. And then sometimes it's nice to work with friends. So there are some library spaces that have been soundproof where you can chat to your friends and work at the same time.
Great.
I'm kind of the opposite. I tend to need a library to make myself work. And so when I really need to get something done, I'll normally take myself off to a library. And the Magdalen library is open 24/7. There are also all the really beautiful Bodleian libraries in the centre of town that you can just go to as an Oxford student, and they're just an incredible place to work. And for me, being surrounded by 500-year-old books makes me feel a bit guilty if I'm sat there on my phone. So I find that really works for me.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm the same as Mattie. Right from the beginning, I was like, I don't want to work in my room because I want my room to be somewhere I can just go back to and chill out. So I always work in the Magdalen Library just because it's beautiful. It was redone recently and it's so light and lovely. And there's just one seat, well actually there's 4 of them that I love on the second floor, and you just look over the quad and it's just you in your little bit, and it's really quiet and lovely. And I absolutely love working there. And my room is beautiful. I'm currently looking out at the deer park, but it's just for me, I quite like that separation, so I always work the library.
I personally work in my room because as I walk through the library, it's too easy to be distracted and go to the Addison box instead. I don't have that much control.
I pretty much just stay in the science area the whole day. So I'll do my lectures, my classes, and then go to the VHL, which is the science library, because the radical library got shut down. So I would just pretty much stay there the whole day, because if I come back into college, there's too many people that I know and too many friendly faces, and I'll instantly just do no work at all.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, guys. Okay, so what's Oxford like as a city to live in? Catrin, can I come to you first?
Yeah, so I mean, it's the only city I've ever lived in, so I haven't got much to compare with, but I love it because it's got absolutely everything you need, but just so near. So you've got the Westgate Centre for shopping, which is excellent. They have loads of pubs. I don't like going out clubbing, but there are a few of them. They got all the shops you need. So absolutely everything you need, but it's all like 20 minutes walk away. And Oxford is like, I think, the greenest city in the UK. So you have all of that and all of the socializing and all of the like facilities you need. And then also the green, the parks, the places to like calm down and just relax. So I love that it's got like everything that you could possibly want, but is still somehow just like sort of quiet and nice.
Brill, thank you. Eve?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people like talk about wanting the like campus uni experience in terms of like a uni all being on site, but in Oxford you kind of get both, because you get, it's like the city, but as you're walking through the city, literally every building you see is kind of owned by the university in some fashion. So it's like a college or a library or just a really old building for no reason. So I really like that, because it's kind of like you feel like you're always surrounded by students and you're always within your university, which is quite a nice, like, safe feeling. But you're also in a city with its own like culture and its own life.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. T, you mentioned comparing it to London.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a city to me at all. It's sort of just like this own little magical place that it's very nice and green and very pretty and old. And obviously I am so used to like big city life. But because it is so different, like it's very comforting and very like relieving when I come back from London to just be like, oh, it's so calm again, like it's quiet, it's pretty. I could just walk around and not be rushing about like I am in London. It's definitely great.
Yeah, bro. Ipek?
I live in Istanbul, which is a very chaotic city, and you cannot function without a car. So this feels like a giant backyard. I can just like, it's green, there's oxygen, I can walk around and like go places with my feet. It's like incredible. I love it.
Great, thank you. Mattie?
I don't have masses to add because everything I would have said has kind of been covered, but I think just the fact that you can walk to the shops and you're walking past buildings that have been around for centuries and are just absolutely stunning. And so you have, for me at least, you have the convenience of a city with the beautiful architecture of some and green spaces of a rural town. Just is amazing.
Great, thank you. Okay, so a question we've had on the Slido is, how do you stay productive? Anyone can come in on this. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's remembering how to. I tend to get my work done and then let myself do all the social stuff, so I don't like break it up. It's like, I'm done for today. So for example, like I don't think I've ever really worked after dinner time, just because I'll just like be in my own space in a coffee shop for a few hours and get everything done, and then as soon as I'm back in college, it's like I can socialize, I can do what I want now. Other than that, I don't know. It's a lot of the same things as I guess you take from sixth form in terms of whatever works for you in productivity. I've always got a lot of lists of what I need to do, which I love, my little whiteboard, but that's that's about it.
Yeah, great. Anyone else?
I mean, I can't. Oh.
You go first.
Okay, I was gonna say I'm pretty much the exact same as Eve, so I haven't got much to add, and like I just will work in the daytime, so I'll be in the library by like 9, and just because I'm more efficient in the mornings, that's what works for me. And I'll just work throughout the day, and then I'll get to dinner and I'm like, okay, I'm done now. Now it's time for like resting. But I know that like different things work for different people. Like Mattie is very different to that.
I'm not very good at sitting down and just working like Catrin and Eve for a block of time and then being done and then having my freedom. What I find works really well is I'll go and do a bit of work and then I'll go and do something else and then I'll come back and do some work. And so I like it's the convenience of having everything so close by in Magdalen and in Oxford is that you can mix when you're working and doing other things, because I can't make myself focus for that long. But I think it's all about just finding a routine that works for you.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm going to move on to the next question if that's all right, unless anyone has anything to add. What activities do you guys do outside of your degrees? Clubs, societies, sports, anything like that?
Yeah, so I started this year, so well, in second year, playing women's rugby. So I did touch rugby the year before with college, and then me and my friend started the modern college team, which is super relaxed. And then we also joined the uni team as well. And I love it because it's a really good sport for people who've never played it before, because it's not like a traditional like women's sport. So I love having something else like completely different to do. That's fun. I'm perfectly okay to be really bad at. And it's just completely different. And like you have that team sport and you meet people from outside of college, or if you just do college sports, you meet people like inside of college. And that can take up quite a bit of time, especially in season, because we might have, you know, half a day or a whole day on a Wednesday off, like to go to an away match. But I've never really know, like I would never be like, oh no, I'm too busy to do something else, because I need to do these other things to be sane enough to work the rest of the time.
Well, thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I'm part of both the LGBTQ plus society and ACS. And so like throughout the term, they have term cards where basically just do all these different events, like get together, eat together, go to the movie. So last year, ACS, we went as a whole group to watch Queen and Slim at the cinema, which was great. So there's always all these different things going on. And it's just a great time to get outside of college, meet other people, and just like sort of forget that, you know, Oxford and everything that's going on, and just have a nice time with people that are like you.
Yeah, brilliant. Anyone else?
I've done a lot of like sort of like third sector advocacy stuff. So I do Write for Education, which was a magazine I found through Oxford students, which is like educational articles. It's published in Africa, and it's been really cool to write for. And a lot of like international development societies and conferences, which I'm really interested in. And then despite like not having a single sporting capacity in me, I have done like through college sport, which is quite informal, and through cuppers, which is like this sort of silly summer competition, I've done like touch rugby and college netball, hugely unsuccessfully, but it was really fun to try.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, there's absolutely loads of clubs and societies to join. I actually think Eva's also part of a Midlanders society, which I did not know existed. Okay, so huh? Yeah,
Sorry,
I need to add to it because, you know, Nottingham. Okay, so a question that I'm going to answer is about how competitive Magdalen is and how hard it is to get into, because it's high on the Norrington table. So it's actually not really something you need to worry about too much, because there's quite a complicated system of admissions here, which basically means that if you are good enough to get in, you will get in. So it doesn't really matter what college you apply to, because we have a pooling system, and if you're a strong applicant, you'll be allocated to a different college, and actually a third of students who apply end up getting into a college they didn't apply to. So if you're good enough, you will get into Oxford. It really doesn't matter where you apply to. So really just choose your college based on what you love and where you'd love to live. That being said, if you are pulled to a different college, you end up loving the college you go to. That's just how it works, really. Okay, so the next question is, how much pressure do you experience studying at Oxford, and what kind of outlets are there to help you handle that? Would anyone like to lead on that?
Yeah, so the amount of pressure really depends between like who's around you, like not really what subject you do, but like different subject cohorts between colleges, and also how much pressure you put on yourself. So some people maybe are quite determined to like be the best or whatever, and then maybe they will feel more pressure. But I personally am just like, I'm gonna just do my own thing and see where that gets me, and that's good enough. So I've never really felt a massive pressure to be working all the time or to be doing like the best out of everyone. and it's much more just this is how much I'm happy to do, and this is how much I'm going to do, and I'm not going to feel guilty when I'm done doing that. But I know that it does massively vary between people, and there are times when it's harder. So like exam season, for example, is a bit harder to be like, oh, you know, I'm completely fine doing my own thing if you have other people working all day every day, which might not work for me or work for you. But it's, you know, at that time maybe it's slightly harder to ignore, but it's never been like a huge issue for me personally.
Absolutely. Anybody else on pressure?
I sometimes find myself getting pulled into this trap of looking at how hard all my friends are working and sort of going, oh, you know, they did 6 hours of work today, I only did 3, they must be twice as good as me or whatever. And actually, I think everyone's sort of, as Catrin said, just deals with it a different way. And so I find it really useful to go off and do something that I enjoy, or get some physical exercise, or get outdoors and get some fresh air, and just remember that there is more to life, even in Oxford, than sitting in your room and reading something.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
If you do get overwhelmed, there's definitely a lot of support there, because it is quite common too, which, I mean, like half of our welfare team are here at the moment, which are like student welfare people that you go to if you need, if you're just like feeling stressed or overwhelmed with stuff. But then there's also like the tutors, if you tell them you've got a problem, they're not going to ignore you. Like if you say, I just can't do this, I can't do that this week, most of them are just going to be like, that's fine. And also we've got our lovely student mentor, Netta, who's like very good for a chat if you need.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot of support if it does get on top of you. Tutors are really good and very understanding about it. And a lot of pressure is, you know, self-imposed. People have imposter syndrome, and everybody who comes thinks, I'm not good enough to be here, I'm not going to be able to manage. And you then realise that literally everybody else feels the exact same. But there's lots of support. Okay, so next question. Magdalen seems to have a bad reputation for vegetarian and vegan food in halls. Is this accurate? Anyone want to take this?
Is anyone vegetarian? There's always a veggie option, and there's also really flexible catering in general. So like if the hall food isn't your favorite, there's like a cafe that serves all day that's doing like paninis, jack potatoes, soup, whatever, that's all very easily vegetarian. And there's enough kitchens that mean you can cook your own food, and fridges in your room. So like you're perfectly welcome to not eat the college food if you don't like it. I don't mind it particularly. Like, I mean, I had school dinners my whole life, and they're an upgrade from that. So that's about all I required in school. I would say there's probably not that much vegan food in terms of like, you can request it. So like if you have a dietary requirement, you can just let the kitchen know that you have a dietary requirement, and they will bring out special meals for you. But you just need to like have that dialogue with them.
Yeah. And the college kitchens have actually been on training for veggie food, and it does get better every year. I think there's increasingly more and more vegetarian options, vegan probably still to come. But yeah, I'm gluten-free, and I was mainly fine. I could, as Eve said, request things, and it worked out all right. Okay, so what advice would you give to somebody who wants to apply but feels intimidated by the prospect of doing so? Again, anyone who wants to take it.
Just go for it. You don't lose anything by applying, and I definitely wasn't sure I was good enough before I applied, and now I'm here, and you know, just give it a go. It's not as scary a process as everyone builds it up to be, and the reason we're all here today is to try and make it as easy for you guys to apply as possible, because we just want as many people to apply.
I also think definitely find what, like, look at all the Oxford website. There's like Oxplore and all that stuff as well. Because so I went to a comprehensive school that didn't send many people, so I was completely like the process didn't feel very transparent to me. So definitely there are a lot of resources I didn't know about when I was applying. and I don't know what they are now, but I remember there, like, later on finding out there are loads and loads of Oxford websites. So we've got some on Magdalen website, we've got some resources for access and admissions, and definitely find out what's out there as well. Loads of places have Instagram accounts that I didn't know about, or Facebook accounts that will have things about like admissions or daily student life, and all those resources are out there. You just like have to find them. So definitely do have a good like Google, a good scroll through Instagram, and you'll find a lot more than you realised as well.
Yeah, just super quickly on that, if you want those resources, do email outreach at Magdalen, because we have a big old resource pack that we can send you. It's also on the website. Sorry, whoever I interrupted.
I was saying, I am the person who was too intimidated by Magdalen and didn't apply to Magdalen because of that. Like, I read an article online that was just definitely not true. That was like, it was easier to get into history at it's easier to fly to the moon than like get into history at Magdalen. And I was like, well, not for me then. And then I ended up getting reallocated here before my interview anyway. So there really is like no sort of like reason to be. And like now I'm here, I'm like, well, why was I like applying to anywhere else? And like Catrin said about the resources, if you feel intimidated and like you don't understand what student life would be like, there's so many resources, and there's so many like even more informal ones like Instagrammers and YouTubers that like can show you their college life. And big up the Magdalen JCR Instagram for that as well.
Yeah, give that a follow. It's run by Eve and it's great. Tia or Ipek, do either of you want to add to that?
I just want to add, as an international, it's kind of confusing, like trying to click and like Google search what you need, because we don't do A-levels. So it just takes a lot of clicking and searching and emailing back and forth, but it's easier than it looks.
Thank you.
Yeah, like we were saying, it's all now so much more accessible. Like everything is online. You just have to click away and just do your own research. And also know that it is okay to be like overwhelmed and okay to be scared of the process, because it is something big. Like even just applying to uni itself is something like a massive step. And of course, Oxford is Oxford, so it is very difficult at times, but it's worth it, and you'd absolutely lose nothing just from trying it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, circling back around to food, we've just had a question about how often do you cook for yourselves, if ever?
I did not cook for myself very much for my first year or 2 years, just because everything was so busy and I just didn't want to like, you know, learn how to be an adult and do my food shop. And Magdalen gave you the like perfect opportunity to not become an adult for too long. And I really liked food in college. It's very well subsidized at the moment, which means that it actually just wasn't that expensive for me to like go and get a jacket potato for like £1.20 in the OKB at lunch. But now I'm in third year, I have a kitchen that I love, which is like right downstairs from my room. So I do actually cook all the time now because I'm getting ready for adulthood. But other than that, yeah. Some people have only ever cooked, like they've never eaten in college.
Yeah, bro. Anyone else?
Most of the time last year I was cooking just because it was easier for me. I would like do big cook and then have like dinner and then take it with me for lunch next day just because it was simpler. But when I did go to hall for dinner, we sort of went as a whole like group, like all my friends would go together and get together for the end of the day and just like have a nice chill night and evening after like the big stress of the day, which was very nice. And whole food is not as bad as it seems. I personally enjoyed it enough, so it was good.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so we've had a question about what a typical day as well a student looks like. So I thought it'd be good if we have a science answer and a humanities answer here. I pick you. You're a scientist, aren't you? Do you want to?
So we usually, unfortunately, have morning lectures. So a typical day starts with a morning lecture, and then I either rush back to like cram some work in before my tutorial, because I usually arrange it so that I have like lectures and tutorials on the same day and I can have 3 days the rest of the week, but you can just spread them out. So usually mornings are like work and like study related, and then the evenings I find myself at the Addison's Walk or like walking around Oxford.
Lovely,
Yeah.
thank you. Eve, do you want to take a humanities point of view?
Lectures are not something that have featured heavily in my degree. That there are many you can go to if you would like to. They're slightly more optional when you do a subject as general as history. So I'll put it that way. And they tend to be, if they are, they're in exam schools, which is like across the road, and at like 10 or 11 in the morning. I tend to get up and go into town to work in a coffee shop for sort of 3 to 4 hours. I might get some lunch in town. And that's my like reading that I'm doing for my essay that week. I have 1 or 2 essays a week, and I have 1 or 2 tutorials for those essays. So I might have a tutorial at like 3 in the afternoon or something like that, which I'll then go to, which tend to be either in college, or if my tutor for that subject is out of college, it will be in another college. So I cycle around Oxford, so I cycle there. I also might go to the different libraries that I need to pick up books from in the afternoon. And then in the evening, I'll either cook or I'll eat in hall with my friends. About 6 o'clock is when hall starts serving. And then there's something on in college most nights, or there's some kind of society event on. So if I've got a meeting for a magazine, or if I've got karaoke in the college bar or a party that night, something like that, then I'll do that.
And I also forgot like an essential part of my day. 1 day a week, I have like a 5-hour lab, which is quite intense, but it's only 1 day a week and they're quite fun. So,
Brill, thank
that.
you. Thank you. Okay, what is your accommodation like? So you can touch on first year, second year, third year. Anyone want to? We've also had a question about what it is like to live in the Wainfleet, so I think someone should address that.
The rooms we're in.
Yeah, you're all in.
I lived in the Wainfleet in the first year, and when I turned up to Oxford, having applied to what I thought was the most beautiful place in the world, and was told that I was going to be living over a bridge and above a Sainsbury's, I was initially a little bit disappointed. But there's, I think, around 60 freshers in there, so it's really fun atmosphere. It makes it so easy to meet people during Freshers Week and see your friends and just generally hang out. So I actually really enjoyed living in the Wainfleet because it's such a community atmosphere. And then last year, my second year, I was right at the bottom of the room ballot, and so I didn't quite make it into college. So I lived in one of the high street houses, but I was with some really good friends and we had a really nice time, and the rooms themselves were quite nice. And then, so again, that was still quite an enjoyable experience. And then this year, because the room ballot flips instead of just being randomized again, I was right at the top. So now my room in college is really nice. I've got a 2-room set with a relatively large living room and a bedroom all to myself, which feels absolutely ridiculous. And I've been back in college for about a week now, and I still wake up and can't quite believe that I live here. So the rooms in college are varied, but I think there is something to be said for all of them, and all of them tend to be near other people, and they'll have a kitchen and facilities. And so I've enjoyed all 3 of my rooms so far.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I've kind of lucked out a little bit because I wasn't in the Fleet in first year. I was actually in one of the high street houses next to college. So there are about 13 of us in there. And I ended up with a 2-room set in my first year, which was lovely, which meant I had a study and a bedroom on the high street. And then in second year, I was like sort of 80 out of 120 maybe in my ballot. So I got a room in college in one of the attics, and I love like tiny little characterful rooms. So that was my favorite. I really like that. And that is the thing about college rooms, is like not one of them looks the same as the other in terms of like furniture, in terms of views, whatever it looks like. All the rooms are different. Some of them have fireplaces, some of them have en suites, some of them have a deer park, like that kind of thing. And then this year I'm in the Grove, which is kind of like the modern bit of college. where it is an ensuite, and I really, really appreciate that. But I didn't really notice that I didn't have one for the rest of my time here, so it didn't bother me.
Well, and we've had a question linked to this. How much creative space do you have when it comes to decorating your room? I don't know if anyone remembers my room, but it was fairy lights on every wall. T, yours looks absolutely lovely. Does anyone want to answer this?
Just, I love decorating my room. It looks great. My fairy lights aren't turned on, or I'd show you my fireplace with the flowers on it, with all the fairy lights coming down it. It's beautiful. I bring a whole bag with the blankets because my furniture, might just like show you this. Ooh. It's like, I don't know if you can see, but my furniture is a horrible like brown color, but I just cover it up with blankets. And then, yeah, you know, just to see my room, because I feel like so you can see, here's one of my windows, here's another one of my windows. In this corner, we've got my folders in color order, so that is very pretty. This one has a nice little blanket and some cushions on. There's all my photos over there. So yeah, definitely, I love decorating it. It's in first year, you got to take all your stuff down. Well, no, if you live in the Wainfleet, you got to take all your stuff down at the end of every term, which is a bit annoying, but fine, I did it anyway. And then after that, you can just leave them up. So I went to town this year, I had a great time, and now my room is lovely. So yeah.
I say the limits are you can't paint your room. You can't probably hammer anything into your walls. But other than that, you can move any of the furniture that you want to move. You can add your own furniture. You can bring whatever you want to stick up on the walls with poster tape or whatever. Yeah.
Also, on the hammering stuff into walls, if you can put a maintenance request in really easily online. And it's not that the college don't want stuff hammered into walls, they just don't want you doing it yourself. So if you put in a maintenance request, then the maintenance team from college, who are really great, will happily come and put a nail in a wall somewhere if you want to hang something. I had that done in my room last year, so I could hang something up above my desk. And so you really do have a lot of freedom.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so somebody's asked, socially, is it easy to feel left out, or is there a group for everybody? And somebody else on a similar note has said, you know, it's a big college, does it feel overwhelming? So yeah, some questions on sort of socially, how does it feel?
I actually think the fact that it's a big college I've never found it overwhelming, but I do think it means that there is kind of a group for everyone. There's enough people at Magdalen that you'll meet lots of people and you don't have to be friends with all of them, but there will be people who have similar interests to you and similar views who you can become friends with. And so I think a lot of people I've spoken to have said that from their experience of being at Magdalen, they have found a group that works for them and they found a good group of friends.
Yeah.
I also find that you make new friends all the time and your friends like change. So a lot of the friends I made friends to start with were a lot like me. So loads of them went to state school and grew up in the countryside, so we were all like quite similar. But then since then, I think you get over some of your preconceptions of people as well. You just meet new people in different places. And so I just keep meeting new people and making new friends all the time. I was really worried about the whole making friends thing. I had it in my head that all these people from private schools would like come with friends and it would just be like me by myself, like, oh no one likes me. Firstly, if they do come with people they went to school with, a lot of them don't like each other anyway, so it's fine. And also they just want, like, everyone wants to make friends, everyone is in the same position, and as long as you leave your room, sometimes you're going to run into people. In the first year you live with other freshers all desperate to make friends. There are so many clubs you can go to, like in college, out of college. There are just constant opportunities to meet people. I again love that Magdalen's a bit bigger because you're much less likely to not like anyone because there's 100 odd people in your year to like, and I feel like it's relatively easy to like 1 in 100 people. So yeah, I think it's great.
I personally don't feel like it feels like it's a big college, just because just walking around, you, even if you're not friends with someone or they're in a different year, like you've seen them, you know of them, you know about them sort of. And that for me was like really like comforting, really relieving at first. because it sort of helped me not feel so isolated, because I was like terrified in first year about like meeting people. And especially because everyone is sort of tight, even if they're in different years, like at least for biochemistry, we all sort of get together, like have dinners together and formals, which is so nice. And it also sort of fits into the whole like college family system as well, which is just really, really great, especially if you're terrified of coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. Does someone want to quickly explain the college family system in case anyone?
I will. College families are like, you have two people who you decide to get married, usually in your first year, and it's someone you're friends with, platonic marriage, ideally. And then there'll be a different subject to you usually. So then when the freshers arrive the next year, you get allocated kids. And there should usually be a mixture of students who do your subject and your partner's subject. And then it's kind of just like any other buddy system. It just has a weird like traditional structure around it about families. So you might take them like for meals when they arrive in Freshers Week, or you might like give them advice on their subject and stuff. So like Ipek is my college daughter. So because she's an engineer and my college husband does engineering. I have no historian children, unfortunately, but yeah, so we have like family meals and stuff.
Yeah, so it's a support system essentially. The idea is that your parents are your first port of call. They'll be in the year above you if you've got any questions. They should be able to help you out. But yeah, it's not as incestuous as it sounds. It's just
families are very diverse.
Yes, yeah, it's not just sort of like heteronormative.
Not husband and wife.
Yeah, we've got all sorts of combinations.
Many an open relationship.
Yes, yeah, we've got 3 people marriages. It's all sorts of things. Okay, so the next question. Do you feel as if Oxford is somewhat elitist?
So I think it could be better, and I think it would be a lie to say that it's completely perfect, because it's built on this foundation of being a place where straight white boys from public schools go. So I think that's always, not always, but there's still elements of that. But I think, it gets better every year. And I also don't think it affects your student experience, really. So, I mean, in my year, I think around 50% of people went to private school, which is quite a lot, but it gets better. Like every year below us, it gets better again. And that hasn't affected it at all. It hasn't affected my ability to make friends. I get on with everyone. And yes, there are 1 or 2 people who are awful, but that'll happen everywhere. That's not necessarily because they're posh, that's because they're awful people, and there's not very many of them. And yeah, it gets better every year. And I think I was really worried about it. I was really worried about not being able to relate to people who went to private school or anything at all, and that's just not true. They're all normal people, just some of them have second houses they'll take you on free holidays too. So it's something I was really worried about, and it's something that should be better, but it's not something that affects my day-to-day life.
Oxford is by definition an elitist institution because it advertises itself on being the academic elite of the country. So that's inescapable in terms of this institution has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. I would differentiate in your head between thinking of Oxford University as the institution and as the student body which you're going to become a part of. Because for me, they've been quite different. There might be a lot of traditions, there might be a lot of people who are a bit set in their ways in terms of maybe the people who work at the university sometimes, but the student experience is different. And it's also changing a lot in terms of since when I've been at more in the 3 years that I've been at Magdalen, I've seen it change. So the amount that it's going to change in the future is just going to increase, especially because people are so much more aware now in terms of what they're trying to do and trying to improve. So yeah, I wouldn't consider it a worry in my day-to-day life, even though it was a massive worry before I came.
Yeah. For me, state school background, especially as a person of color, it was always a massive fear and something that I was very terrified of having to encounter when I was here. Like Catrin was saying, it's not something that will directly or necessarily have to affect how your days go at Oxford. I feel like Oxford could definitely, do better in admitting that it does have this background and this root, and that there are systems in place that still sort of promote this old traditional culture of elitism and such. But there's so much in place now to stop that from happening, from letting you have a good experience regardless of, even if you don't fit the stereotypical Oxford look.
Absolutely, brilliant answers. Thank you, guys. I think, yeah, definitely something to take away is there's also so much to get involved in. You know, if there's something you don't like, we have committees, we have societies. You know, I struggled with the state school thing, so I got this job because this job is about changing that. So, you know, like there's lots of opportunities to sort of get involved if it's something you really care about. Okay, so what is the disabled access in college like? I'll start off with answering this one. We have wheelchair accessible rooms, the college bar is accessible, so is the hall and most of the teaching rooms. All of the grounds are accessible. There's a couple of places that aren't. The JCR isn't, which needs changing and improving at some point.
It is changing.
Yeah, thank you. Brilliant. Okay, that is changing then. Fantastic. But yeah, if you are worried about that, it's a good idea to email the admissions department and let them know about this and inquire about any specific things you might need or want. And there's more information on our website. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that.
Not really, other than our tutor for equality and diversity, I think is her title, Sean, uses a wheelchair, so she's really on it and she's really good. She runs quite a lot of committees and a lot of like forums and stuff, be like, what can we make better? So, you know, it's a lot of old buildings, like a lot of, I think the bigger issue is getting to friends' rooms, because a lot of like the student accommodation isn't accessible. Whilst there are accessible rooms, a lot of them aren't. But there's a lot of drive to improve it where it can. So it's not, I think, the best, but all the important bits are accessible and it is getting better as well.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, do students use the social spaces in college, such as the bar and the JCR, regularly, or do people leave college to socialise?
Both. I think the OKB and like the bar and the JCR normally have people in them. There are lots of things you can do there, and so often there'll be lots of students hanging out, having a good time, seeing their friends in there. But a lot of students also choose to go outside of college and go meet friends in town or go to a different college's bar with friends from a different college. I don't think anyone I know sticks to doing one or the other. I think everyone has a slightly blended way of doing it. Like when they want to see their college friends and no one wants to leave college into the big bad world, they'll go to the college bar or the JCR, and sometimes you want a change of scenery. But they are very much used.
Well, anybody else?
I'm quite a homebody, so I socialise in college like almost all of the time. And there is, in the social spaces in college, there is like never not someone in there during term time. Like there is always someone in the JCR, there's always someone in the bar in the evening. There's always people who from college who might want to go to the pub with you, or like there's always like a room where people are hanging out together because some of the rooms are huge.
Brilliant. Are societies linked to the university or to colleges?
Both. So you have college societies and then you have uni societies. And so in regards to sports, the college societies are normally really low key. Rowing maybe is slightly more serious, but they still have novice teams, and it's much more. So college sports is very much an opportunity to play something you've never played before, to get involved, just to have fun, not to take it seriously, to just get outside and have things. So I did lacrosse in my first year, which was interesting, because obviously I'd never played that before, which was weird. And then so we've got the college rugby team now, which is pretty good. So the college is much more like low key for sports. I'm just talking about sports because what I know about. And then outside of college, in your uni sports teams, it'll be a bit more competitive. So some of the more traditional sports, like maybe hockey or something, are more competitive to get into, and you might have played before, but a lot of them will then have development teams. So I mean, I started playing women's rugby with the uni when I couldn't play at all. So it's not like a strict divide, but generally college sports are much more relaxed and okay, and uni sports are a bit more competitive and a bit more like the higher, better people.
Well,
yeah, that's true of most things. So there's loads of societies in college, and college is really generous with funding. If you decide there's a society you want to set up, they'll give you money for that. There's like a poetry society in Magdalen. There's a Magdalen Players who do a summer garden play every year. A debate society. Lots of other ones that are based within college. But then there's the big uni events as well. We have speakers that just come to Magdalen sometimes, or you can go to the Union or the International Development Society, and they'll have their own speakers on if you want to do uni-wide events. And this is the same for like all the societies. Like there's a uni LGBTQ plus and a Magdalen group that do their own drinks and stuff. So everything exists on both levels. So it's like double the social life.
Excellent. Okay, what are Oxford tutorials like? Anybody can answer.
I think it varies quite a lot between subjects. So as a medic, a lot of the information we cover in tutorials, especially in the first 2 years, isn't that opinion based. There are definitely opinions that come into interpretation of science, but a lot of it comes down to how the science works. I think you'd all agree that you'd want your doctors to know that. And so a lot of our tutorials tend to focus around the tutor trying to test how much you've understood what you've been working on that week in your own time with your essays, and explaining aspects that you might not understand or that they think might be particularly complicated. And then often they'll go beyond what it is that you've been discussing and look into interesting ways that is applied in the world or in medicine. But I think that's not typical of an art subject, for example.
Yeah, does a humanities student want to come in on?
Yeah, I'll do that. History is much more sort of discussion based. You tend to have anywhere between 1 and 3 of you in a tutorial from my experience, and it will be based on the essay topic that you were looking at that week. Some of you might have looked at slightly different varieties of the same question so that you can bring different opinions on the matter, and you'll discuss what you've read, you'll discuss what you argued in your essays. Some tutors like to, pitch your arguments against each other. Some just like to tell you what they think about the subject. And your tutor will be an expert in what you're discussing, but it is a two-way conversation. They want to know, they want to make you think, basically. It's like, why do you think what you think? You usually come out with a different opinion than you argued in your essay that week. And a lot of the time it does just turn into a bit of an intellectual chat more than anything else.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it'd be great to have one from everyone on this one. Do you have an admissions top tip? So for the whole application process, any point of it, what would your top tip be?
For me, just find out what works for you. So a lot of people I know did a lot of reading, but I don't like non-fiction books very much. I find it slow. I'd rather read, famously, a trashy novel. But so I listened to podcasts instead in the run-up to interviews, because it was just an easy way to hear discussions of lots of different topics, which for human scientists is really helpful. So I was just listening to like lots of people from different disciplines talking about the same topic, maybe on like a discussion podcast or whatever. And that was really helpful to me, because then I had lots of things to draw upon when it came to interviews, and it's quick and you can like do it whilst do it. So I would do it and then draw at the same time. So definitely just don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about what you think you should know or what you think the tutors will want you to have done, and just genuinely do what you find interesting and what you find works, because if you found it interesting and easy to understand and easy to listen to and do, you'll find it so much easier to like discuss it enthusiastically and answer questions on it in the interview. So yeah, definitely do what you find interesting, not just what you think they want to hear about.
Thank you.
I'll come in with it's more about how you think than what you know. So it's not a test of how much you've read and how much history, for example, you know on arrival. It is trying to work out, do you think in a way that is conducive to Oxford learning? So, for example, with history, in all the tests and interviews that they give you, it is either going to be a period of history that you and all of the other candidates are likely to know absolutely nothing about because they want to test your skills, or they will choose something that they think that you know lots about and they want to push you further on it. So something you did for A level, for example, is what happened in my interview. So please don't worry about knowing a large amount of history or knowing a large amount of politics before you arrive. Focus on being able to talk about things you're passionate about, and focus on being able to like think through a problem that's been put in front of you.
Brilliant, thank you.
I would say, like, if I could go back and tell myself, I would tell myself to sort of chill, because it is definitely a very stressful process. Like a lot is on the line per se, but if you are passionate about these things, like, they will just naturally come to you in the moment. Like, I thought I just went completely like blank in the moment, but then the tutor who was interviewing me, like, he was sort of like helping me through it, and then there was like that light bulb moment, and I was like, oh yeah, like I do know this thing, and I am interested in this thing, and I can think about this from a different way and different perspective. At least for biochemistry, during the interviews, we had a reading like the night before. That at first was like, what the hell is going on? But then you sort of like you were saying, it's sort of just seeing how you think things through and how you can go about it. So definitely chill, because things will just come to you as you go through it.
Well, thank you. Mattie,
very similar with engineering, which you basically, when I first walked in my interview, they just said to me, you're not going to be able to solve this question, so chill out from the start. We just want to see you struggle a bit. So yeah, it doesn't matter the amount of knowledge you have. It's just that it's the struggle, I guess, with thinking.
Yeah, I think we kind of said everything, but also even though it's how you work through the problem and how you think, even like if you're stood there and you're thinking about the problem and you're trying to work through it and you just get it wrong, that's not going to be counted against you. They're not going to make a tally on their little notepad of candidate number 17 got this question wrong or whatever. They just want to see how you respond to that. And the other big tip I'd say is use the resources that are available. There are so many of them, both from Magdalen and from the university. And there were so many times when I was applying and I'd sort of get myself in a flap and be like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then sort of a couple of days later, after stressing out for way too long, I'd be like, maybe if I actually read all the documents that are there to try and avoid this happening, they would have the answer, and they almost always did. So just make sure you use the resources.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, I would definitely just say, remember, particularly for interviews, it's meant to just be like a trial tutorial. So you want to be able to talk. They want to see you're somebody who will be good to teach, So, and that means saying, I don't know when you don't know, giving it a go if you don't, and being willing to listen if they have something to say. And yeah, definitely, like T said, try not to be too stressed. My tip was to, try and remember that these tutors, like, they might be leading experts, but they go home to children, families, dogs, cats. They're normal people, and they generally are very lovely and understanding about the process. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you, all 5 of you, so much. These 5 will be available in the Meet the Students room all day, as will some other students, so do keep asking them your questions. Me and a couple of colleagues will also be in the admissions Q&A room, so you can ask us any questions. And don't forget that at 2 o'clock we'll be doing this again, but with tutors. So please come along to that if you would like to ask the tutors any questions. Brilliant. Thank you very much all, and good luck.